Chef Katie, welcome to the SBI podcast. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be
I
part of this.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I don't think we've actually ever met in person, but I will tell you over my 4 years at U Ottawa, when people ask me like what's Newfoundland like, what should they do? I've been suggesting constantly, first thing you got to do, go to the Bonavista Social. That's been my Bonavista Social Club. That's been my number one go-to.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Now, I want to just kind of take a look in terms of how you really got into the industry. So, like when you were growing up, were you in the kitchen constantly?
No, no, not really. We were as a family, like we used to cook together a lot and we'd have, pizza nights and we'd roll fresh pasta and we grew a lot of our own vegetables and raised a lot of our own meat. But I don't think that, people would have said, oh, wow, that child's going to grow up to be a chef. No, no, I did join this kind of service industry when I was 15. I went to work at Fisher's Loft, and that's where it all began. Yeah. Not in the kitchen necessarily, but in the industry in general.
In terms of post-secondary and education, did you look into did you do anything at the CNA or anything like that?
Yeah, so I actually started out at art school. So I did the CNA Anna Templeton program in downtown St. John's. I went to kind of art school for 2 years and realized that I wasn't good at any of those things, but was definitely love being creative, love colors, love, you know, a lot of other things that came with that. Knitting, not so much, but sewing machines, not so much. But as I worked as a server, I was in downtown St. John's for those 2 years, and then realized that I had learned a lot about myself. And one thing was that I was made for the service industry and that I didn't really want to be front of house indefinitely because I knew that that wasn't something I was going to be able to, stay at forever. And so, yeah, I decided that I preferred the kitchen. I preferred the back of the house, and I love food and I love to cook. So that's kind of where that stemmed from. And then I went to Holland College for 2 years in Prince Edward Island. So I did that program, did a lot of competing, did a lot of traveling, and then yeah, that's kind of where it stemmed from there. I was kind of at a loss of what to do. I didn't know. I knew I wasn't going to continue down the art career, but I really had no idea what I was at. So that's where I went. Not too
Now,
far from home.
art is, I mean, it can bring you down in so many different avenues, painting, sculpting. What was it about cooking that I guess kind of stood out to you?
I guess having an appreciation for food and growing up, growing our own food and raising our own animals, I kind of always, I guess, had an appreciation. And from working as a server, I had an appreciation for people in the kitchen and everything that was happening behind the scenes all the time. So I think that being able to be creative, being able to not only create a plate with amazing textures and details and colors, but to put it out there and for someone to eat it as well and be like, wow, not only the visual, but the taste, the smell, it was just something about it, about how you could take a raw product and create this artistic, dish always was kind of an odd to me. The options were endless on what I could do with it. And also the fact that I knew I wanted to travel. And so it was another big reason why I went down the culinary route was because I thought that this is my ticket to see the world.
When you just got to Holland College there, take me through the first few days on campus and that whole transition.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. I traveled outside Newfoundland before, gone to visit family and whatnot, but never really lived away from home. So I found Prince Edward Island a lot like Newfoundland in many ways. Obviously, we're all Atlantic Canada, so I felt comfortable there. I think I was just so desperate and so ready to meet new people and to get outside of Newfoundland that I was pretty excited. It was all so much. It was so much coming at me at once, especially because, the culinary side, I'd never cooked in a restaurant before. I'd always served. And so it was all a little bit foreign. And I definitely didn't have, I didn't have much confidence for sure, but it was pretty fun. I lived in Res the first year. So that was a blast. And you know what it's like when you got a bunch of Newfoundlanders outside Newfoundland. So we had a lot of fun. And I golfed, so I was happy enough when the weather was nice, and I played hockey, so I was also happy when the weather wasn't nice. And so yeah, I loved every second of PEI.
It's amazing how you'll just end up finding yourself with a group of Newfoundlanders no matter where you are in the country or the world, eh?
Yeah, it's really funny, and we've kept in touch. Like so many of us, especially from Newfoundland, have stayed tight, and yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, Atlantic Canada in general, but really the Newfoundlanders. Yeah, especially food. I mean, you're in Atlantic Canada, you're eating food. Like, of course, you're all gathered together. So yeah.
Now, so the whole concept of the Bonavista Social Club is essentially you're bringing people from like all that area, because it's not actually, when I first heard about the spot like years and years ago, I thought it was actually in Bonavista, but you're in Upper Amherst Cove.
Yeah, so people say, why are you called the Bonavista Social Club if you don't live in if you're not in Bonavista? But we are on the Bonavista Peninsula. So yeah, the kind of the origin of the name of the Bonavista Social Club came from years and years and years ago. So when my dad has a furniture workshop next door, and so this was the building that is the restaurant was his furniture showroom. And so that was the first ever timber frame building that he built. And when he built it and he put the walls up, he said, one day this is going to be a pub and it's going to be called the Bonavista Social Club. And it was a play on the Cuban music group, the Buena Vista Social Club. And so that's kind of where it came from. And so when we opened, we didn't really know what direction we were heading. We didn't want to call ourselves a restaurant. We didn't want to call ourselves our cafe. We had no idea what we were doing or which direction we were headed. So maybe it would be a pub. Maybe it would be just catering. Maybe it would be a production facility. Maybe it would be a bakery. We didn't really know. So that's kind of where the social club came from was, come and be social. Oh, it sounds like that's the place that you go when you're retired to play darts. And I'm like, okay, come play darts. Sure. Whatever you guys want to use this place for, let's make it happen.
From my understanding, your parents are both like very handy. Like your dad built the house that he's currently living in and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we moved to Newfoundland from Ontario when I was 3. I'm 35 now. So yeah, 32 years ago, we moved here. And yeah, so dad grew up in Toronto and mom grew up between kind of Ottawa and London. And mom was a physiotherapist. So she got offered a job either in Bonavista or in Cape Breton. So they just kind of went east until they couldn't go east anymore. And dad fell in love with the old Newfoundland furniture. And so that's kind of why we ended up here. But yeah, yeah, very handy. And I mean, dad still, farm sheep and he's still full time in the workshop. Mom is retired now, but yeah, we're always making our own cheese and doing all the things that you could do. Why not? But they're still like that. They're very, very handy. Yeah.
Do you think now, just kind of maybe reflecting on seeing your dad constantly do stuff like that as you're growing up, it kind of makes sense that you're a business owner and you work with your hands and you're cooking and baking all the time?
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, the entrepreneurship is definitely runs in my veins. And I think that when my husband and I decided to move here, we kind of thought, you know what do we want to do with life? Well, we know we want to be self-employed. Like that's all we knew. We knew we didn't want to keep doing the late nights. He was working at a pub. We didn't want to do that anymore. So whatever we were going to do, we were going to be self-employed. And it definitely, I see dad making it work and always made it work and being his own boss. And I saw the stress and all the stuff behind the scenes as well, but that definitely didn't deter me from knowing that that's what I wanted.
Now, as the years kind of go on, how are you adjusting to, being well, actually, was the Bonavista Social Club your first ever business?
Yeah. Yeah. This would have been our 10th season. Yeah. This was our first ever entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess like, new business owner, you're kind of going into it blind, I guess, or do you have a little bit of a sense? Like, what was those first couple of years like? Because obviously, you guys have been able to sustain an incredible product that a lot of people around the island and country come to enjoy.
Yeah, we had no idea what we were doing. Like if we had ever thought about it or done any market research or listened to our accountants and everyone that told us that like we were nuts, we probably never would have done what we did. And we went in very blind and it was just the two of us. And then, we hauled in my sister-in-law and then a friend. And then, I all of a sudden people are flowing through the door and I didn't think anyone was going to come. And so, I'm just baking bread. And so I'm running over and like out of pasta. So I'm rolling fresh pasta to order over there. And then I'm running over to the stove to put the burger in the oven. And then I'm running to put a pizza in. And it was just crazy. I mean, I don't even know if we took a breath for the first few years. But then, we just kind of, as tourism grew in the area as well, we just kind of adapted and figured out how to make it roll. But we didn't know if we were going to be selling bread to Sobeys or like we had no direction. We had a lot of help, like from Nancy Robbins at ACOA and just kind of helping point us in a little bit of a direction to figure out, what we were at. But I don't know if we would have done it if we thought too hard about it because it doesn't add up and it doesn't make sense. And who knew that, a place like Upper Amherst Cove in rural Newfoundland was going to be a tourist destination. We would not have said that 10 years ago, that's for sure.
So yeah, that area wasn't as populated in terms of tourism.
No, no, definitely not. No, no. And we still have a lot of local support. And we're so grateful for the local support. But the tourist industry was nowhere to where it is now when we began. No, no.
Obviously, you played a pivotal role in that. How's that feel then to kind of see the tourism market grow in that specific area and you having a large part in that?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and a lot has unfolded in the last 10 years, and nothing that we could have planned for or even imagined. But I think that it's all so positive, and I always get asked, or is it? Do you feel that it's a threat, kind of these new businesses opening? And I just think it all adds to the pot. The more entrepreneurs we can have here, the more young people moving home, the more communication, the more working together we can do, the better that we'll make this for everyone. But yeah, I think that yeah, I think it's nice. It's I feel honored to be back here and for people to be supporting me and to be able to raise my family here. And I think that people wanting to come and have a piece of this or to do kind of something that similar to what we're doing is it's amazing. I think it's really yeah, it's a great thing.
The sense of the entrepreneurship community is definitely very apparent. The second you walk in to the social club, you've got East Coast Glow soap. You other products from other businesses around the area and stuff. Why was it important for you guys to incorporate other entities and companies into just the everyday life of your operation?
Well, I think that supporting local in general has always been a really important part of my life. And I think as we see entrepreneurs coming in and businesses opening and businesses closing, and being there for each other and supporting each other is key. It's the way that we're all able to sustain ourselves, to be able to raise our families here, and it's the most important thing is to have that support. And Bonavista Coffee and East Coast Glow and Port Wexton Brewery and everyone. And the more you can collaborate, the more you can support each other, and the more you can promote each other and be a team, the more successful that everyone becomes.
Take me through the creative process of kind of figuring out your menu and the vibe there that you really wanted to establish.
Yeah, I think that like working for restaurant other people for years and going through the restaurant industry in many, a different way, I think I always felt that there was a lot of bitterness. Like you get to a point and it's not fun anymore. And then you have, this age group where this is really cool and hip. And then bang, you cross the line to like, this is repetitive and dull. And I don't want, and you're angry and you can taste the anger in your food. And it's just not good. And I think I always felt like I need to cook things that I want to cook. I have to cook things that I'm passionate about, because if I don't, then there's no love in the food, and you can taste that. And I think I always wanted to keep it. I always had in my head that you have to use a great product. You cannot put out a great product without using, basic, really really good raw product. And so, yeah, I think that as we started to develop the menu and figure out what we were going to do, well, it all kind of began, I guess, with we want a wood fired bread oven. We want to make bread because there's not a lot of places around here that make fresh bread. People that do it here do it really well, but we want to offer something different. Okay, so let's make bread. So let's get a bread oven. Okay, now we have a $45,000 bread oven from France, and we can't make money from bread because no matter if you charge $5 a loaf or $10 a loaf, there's no dough in dough. So we're not going to make money making bread. And we really quickly realized that. But that's how we're going to attract people here. So what do you put in a wood fire bread oven other than bread? Pizza. How do you take as much as you can from the garden and incorporate it into one dish? Pizza, I guess, was our next thing. And that's different. Yes, people are making pizza here, but are they doing wood fired pizza? No, it's a bit with fresh ingredients. Like, no, that's a bit different. So that's kind of where the pizza began. And then we have a lot of chickens. So we have tons of eggs. So what do you make with chicken eggs? So we started making pasta and ice creams and all the things that I love to cook. And I always said that the menu, yes, it's just, it's looks Italian, it's Italian inspired. It's what I love to eat and what I love to cook and what I have a passion for. So we always kept it as that, and always fresh ideas, always, new things coming out of the garden. Keeping it alive and keeping it fun was always so important to me, because, I see these chefs that it's not fun for anymore, and then it's not fun for their crew. And then it's not good. It's a sour, work environment. So that was always kind of where my thought process came on the menu.
Did you say $45,000 oven shipped from France?
That's what it was. Yeah. It actually came from Mainwood Heat Company in Maine, but it came from France. It's Le Pagnol is the name of it. And so actually a friend that I work with, we actually helped open Raymond's together. And she is a master bread baker on top of being a master sommelier now. But she just said, like, there's one way to do it and this is how you do it. And so, no, you're not getting like a propane fired pizza oven. You're not. So this was all about the bread. So this is kind of where that all began. And there was a smaller, which was half the price. But we're like, you know what, if we're doing this right. If this thing is going to take a month and a half to build, it's going to be, and I'm so glad we didn't go any smaller now.
Take me through a transaction like that, especially with like, I don't know much about like those type of ovens. Like, are they like fragile when you're putting them together and stuff like that? Like, is like every step that you're taking like you're gasping for a breath just to make sure that everything goes right?
Yeah, it is for sure. I was actually still working at Raymond's, and then I took a year of mat leave. So I was in between working and doing my year with the kid, and then setting up the business out here, all while we were still kind of living in St. John's. So we were back and forth and trying to be, part of the whole thing. The building of the oven, I mean, I saw daily, but it was a month of finest bricklaying and mortaring and these sandstone tiles being dropped into place. And when the final ones went into the roof, or into the ceiling of the oven, it was like, oh my God, like this is so delicate. And I remember the mason just saying, like, there's nothing delicate about this. Like, give it 3 years and then talk to me. Cause, we figured give it a couple of years of running it, as a pizza oven, and it's going to need some love, but it just gets better every year. We've had no issues with it. And the guys at Mainwood Heat Company were amazing. So they were able to talk us through the whole process. And the front of the oven is all old brick. So it's all brick from chimneys that the mason had kind of deconstructed around downtown St. John's and held on to all this old brick. So it's got a bit of an old kind of feel and a bit of a story to it as well.
It's also a massive process to get those things started and get to the temperature where they need to be at, correct?
Yeah, it takes us almost 3 weeks when we relight the oven after being closed for the winter just to get it up to a temperature where we can cook in it. And that's not even holding its heat for bread. That's just, getting hot enough that we can pull a fire and actually cook anything. So it takes a long time and it's still hot. Like a month after we've shut down, it's still retaining its heat. It's still warm. It's pretty crazy. I mean, it's 8 feet from the top to the bottom, so it's a pretty serious you know spot for a for fire. Yeah.
A 3 week process, like this just seemed an immense amount of work. And I've seen similar, like I don't know, I don't want to call them like easier options, but almost like more conventional ovens where you can almost replicate it. But like, why was it so important for you to, even though it's going to take 3 weeks to heat up and it, massive investment, to really go down that road?
I guess we knew that it was going to be the centerpiece of our business. We knew that this is not only the centerpiece when you walk in, but it is kind of the heart of our souls. So it is. We knew that making bread and having just dough in general was going to be a big part of what we did, and pastries and all those things as well. But we knew that bread was where we wanted to go. And so we figured, you know what, we're going to do it right. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it once and we're going to do it right. And so that's kind of, again, it just kind of started to flow. Like we just said it and went with it and we did not look back. And I think we were maybe a bit young and foolish, but I'm so glad we were now because I never would have taken these risks now. No.
The early stages of trying to learn how to operate that, like when it was finally set up, did you know right away exactly what to do, or was it still kind of a learning and a training process for yourself?
Yeah, no, we did like 8 weeks of intensive training with my friend who's the master bread baker, and she's written a book about sourdough too. And yeah, we got a training grant for that, and we did 8 weeks of intensive training then. And that was just the tip of it. I mean, every time I bake, I learn something new about that oven. We've cooked like whole suckling pigs in there. So many we've done so many things in that oven other than bread, and we're just learning all the time of and then sometimes I do all the same things at all the same temperature, the exact same thing I did the day before, and it's not, the product doesn't ever come out the same twice. It's always different, and that to me is what keeps it interesting and what keeps it fun. And whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed by all the HR and all the crap that comes with owning a business, I always just go and schedule myself in for a few bread bakes that week. So I do the 5:36 a.m. start, and I just bake bread, and then I'm okay again. And so it's definitely my safe place, my little haven for sure. But yeah, we're learning all the time of how this thing works and how to play with it and how to make the most of it. I can't imagine life without it. It's like my fourth child.
I'm curious, with your passion in bread, over the course of this pandemic, bread baking has become a little bit of a trend. Were you like rolling your eyes like, oh, this is my thing? Or are you like, hey, more the merrier?
Yeah, no, I was pretty excited about it. I get really excited when other people get excited about bread too, and I think I'm excited that people are baking. And it's funny because I went from baking bread, and now I'm all like wraps and naans and bagels, and like no one's eating bread. English muffins, whatever I can make that's not a loaf of bread right now is what I'm up to. Yeah.
So the process of bringing in new employees to operate something like that must be like extremely difficult. I'm just picturing myself, starting up for my first day on the job at the Bonavista Social Club and trying to operate and make a pizza for somebody. And like I got a decent oven. I know how to preheat and throw in the frozen pizza, but I think I would probably very vastly fail pretty quickly in your kitchen and the setup there. So when you're looking for outside people, are you almost trying to help them train, or I guess does past experiences really help?
Yeah, past experiences help for sure. I kind of always say with that if you have a work ethic, then I can teach you the skills. So if you can show up and put your best foot forward every day and smile, even if you don't feel like smiling that day and make the most of it, then I can teach you whatever skills you need to learn. And that goes with the bread oven. If you have if you're able to listen and the willingness to learn and move forward, not a problem. It's the, when you get the stubbornness and or the egos or something that causes an issue. But no, as long as you're willing to learn, even if you don't know anything about cooking, I can train you on that oven.
Okay, well, that's giving me hope just for my own personal kitchen usage, because I show up with a smile, but I still end up burning a lot of stuff in the kitchen, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, so you know what? So do I. So do I. It's okay. Yeah.
So you said you were exploring more into other, I guess, versions of bread with like wraps and things like that. Is that just you trying to perfect your craft and really push your limitations even more?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's trying to think about, I think this with the pandemic and everything that's kind of happened in the last year and a half has really just opened my eyes to what do I want to cook? What do I enjoy? What makes me happy? Where do I want to be? I think that I think that it's my, again, the kitchen is my escape. It's my quiet time. It's when my, brain works best. And so I think that I've been trying all different types of bread, and I've just been doing a ton of cooking in general and recipe development, because I think it's really important to be loving what you do, and you're never gonna be able to put everything you've got into something if you're not happy. And so I think that figuring out what I want to be making and what works and what doesn't, and fine tuning my recipes. And it's one of the only things in life right now that I feel like I kind of have control over. So taking control of, what I'm at in the kitchen is my happy place. Yeah.
You've mentioned that a few times now, that the kitchen is very much your happy place, but on the flip side, it is very much your work. How are you separating the two mentally so that way the work doesn't overflow when you're trying to kind of relax and escape some of the pressures or anything that you've kind of mentioned?
I think that's a tough one because I also am teaching full time at the college in Monte Vista, so I'm teaching the practical components of the CCAT course. So I think it's a hard line to draw. And I think it's tough. And I feel like the last kind of 9 years, we have three kids who are 4, 6, and 9. And I feel that I want to make them happy. I want to make them fall in love with food just like I fell in love with food. And I want them to know where their food comes from. And I want them to have an appreciation for it, even if they don't like cooking. And so I think that's been a huge drive of the amount of cooking and the amount of time we've been spending in the kitchen, for sure. But I think that it's a fine line. It is a fine line. But I think that when I'm cooking things and when I'm creating, not just making things I've made a million times before, but when I get to be creative, it makes me feel like this is my purpose, and this is what I'm here to do, and this is what I'm good at. So I guess it's a satisfaction at the end of the day when you feel like kind of, everything is Groundhog Day. I'm still teaching from home right now. So it's, yeah, I think it's the one thing that makes me feel that somewhat connected to the rest of the world as well, is that everyone's in the kitchen and everyone needs to eat every day. So, let's, and the Zoom classes have been really good for that. Let's share our love for food again. And we've been doing that as a family when we don't have a lot of other things to focus on right now.
When you're teaching, I know, some teachers have kind of the educational background, but they've never really worked in the field, right? Obviously for yourself, you're exceptionally talented in the kitchen. When you're teaching, can you see like some prodigies? Like, are you like, hey, this is actually gonna like be a really good career, or maybe on the flip side where you're like, oh, maybe this isn't for you?
Yeah, I've definitely had those conversations with people for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see right away, right away. I mean, I have a bunch of staff that I've had for years that I taught, and I pick them and I'm like, you are made for it. And you're gonna, and again, their dishes aren't the best. They're not, it's not the most amazing food you've ever tasted, but it's a passion, it's a drive, it's a work ethic. It's an overall feeling of, if you don't love this industry, which is like many industries, you're never going to make it. Like, you have to love it, because it's hard and the pay is crap, and it's everything about it. It's a tough industry. So if you don't, you can pick it out right away. If you love it, then you're going to do great. And if you don't love it, and you don't have that drive, then I give you 2 or 3 years, because it's not going to pan out. And a few of the best staff I have are graduates that I kind of pick to say, you're going to make it, and they do, and they're great. And but yeah, you can tell pretty quickly whether someone's going to. And it was the same when I went to school. I mean, I think only 40% of graduates from culinary schools end up in the industry within 2 years. So you can kind of figure that out early.
What's it like to see, fellow graduates, or even fellow students that you had taught, go on to succeed and maybe even excel expectations?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's always fantastic to see. And yeah, I think that I always feel that with culinary school and with cooking, that you're always going to learn a good life skill. So whether or not you end up becoming a chef, or you make it big, or you own your own restaurant, or you just, or you dishwash your whole life, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you're always going to come up with life skills. So it's never a waste of time, like anything. It's never education in general, but you're going to learn so many really great life skills that I think that yeah, I think it's amazing to see people that come out and succeed. And it's also amazing to see the people that haven't become the next top chef, but are slugging it out for years because of the passion of the industry.
Now, your business and Chef Katie, Bonavista Social Club, Chef Katie are so intertwined, and obviously you can't be there 24/7. Take me through the process of, finally taking a step back and being okay with just kind of having, your staff members really take control, because at the end of the day, you have the most stake out of everyone.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think I'm still okay with it. I don't think that it's ever going to be, I'm ever going to be okay walking away and relaxing. The biggest part being like when my staff is in the shit and they're sinking and I can't be there, or like, Shane is busy and I'm home with the 3 kids and I'm like peeking out the drapes being like, why doesn't table 4 have a bottle of water yet? It's not great. And I have the most amazing staff and so much faith in them. And they, when I leave, they're like, wow, things actually went smoother, Kate, because, I'm like running around like a chicken without a head, like going all the different directions. And I'm so burnt out by the end of the season that I'm useless and probably in the way. And so it's not that they need me at all, but it is, yeah, no, I'm not good at relaxing. If I know, like, even if I have a catering on a Saturday night and I know I need to leave the restaurant and things might go south and people may need to deal with crap, that's very stressful for me. I don't like other people having to deal with the lashback of, not being able to see people in time and all the stuff that comes with a busy service. Yeah, I'm not, I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to be okay with it. Yeah.
No, I understand completely, because I'm very much in the same boat. I have so much trouble letting go of my projects and letting other people kind of either help or whatnot. But you mentioned a very important term, burnout, and kind of saying that at the end of the season. But it's a big thing that we try to avoid as much as possible. But sometimes, especially for people who are constantly like go go go, it's almost inevitable and really tough to avoid. What do you think are some strategies, if you have any, that maybe even kind of prolong it, or avoid, if you're lucky enough to avoid the burnout of a season?
Yeah, I think the only thing that keeps me alive is the fact that we're seasonal. I think if this was a year-round business, I would have crashed and burned quite a while ago. And I put the same amount of passion into restaurants that I worked for. I always had to do the best and overachieve as to the best of my ability. But I think that one thing about the pandemic and the shutdown is that it may have saved my life, because I think that I was pretty burnt out and I was getting angry at myself and the world, nothing to do with Newfoundland or cooking or my family. But I was definitely in a rut and I was very burnt out. And yeah, I think between, running the business in the summer and feeling like I wasn't there for the family enough, and feeling that, I was missing part of the kids' lives, and feeling then, going back to work at the college in the fall, and all the things, it was just a lot. And I guess I didn't realize it until we took a deep breath, and it was kind of like, okay, so what is really important here? What direction do we really want to go? What actually works and what doesn't? Because I don't know if I've had a conversation with my husband in 7 years, because we're just like ships in the night, we're one in, one out, and Shane being full out in the gardens and stuff as well. Yeah, it's hard. We haven't really had time to take a deep breath and to think about, are we happy? Do we love it here? Is this what we want to be doing? So that's been really a great thing about the last year and a half, is kind of just taking a deep breath and regrouping, as a family.
I'm curious, once the deep breath kind of came in, what do you think have been the biggest lessons then and stuff like that? Like, I know you said it was going at an exceptional rate, but now, hopefully we're at the kind of the end of, this pandemic and we get back to a normal life. So what do you think are, once you kind of integrate back into that type of environment, what changes do you think are going to be made?
You mean after the pandemic in general, kind of like
Yeah,
how are
hopeful
things going to
speaking
look?
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, it's funny because I was thinking about it before I joined the Zoom, and I was just thinking, like, where are we headed? Like, what is the answer to that question? What are you doing with the rest of your life?
Mm.
But it's kind of yeah, this is where we want to be. This is what we want to be doing. This is what we want to be showcasing. We know that this is what we're here to do, and we're going to be here for the long haul. And I think that just thinking about that and thinking about how grateful we are to be where we are, was really important, just because you're just riding the waves and not and not really thinking about where you're headed. So yeah, I think that we have a million ideas and just no idea which direction we're headed, but we're excited, and we're rebuilding our website right now, and we're getting a bunch of photos done, and we're excited again. And it kind of feels like the old days when it was, and you're trying to impress and you're trying to offer something new, and and we've just been slugging it out, for so many years, that maybe we just needed to breathe. But I think knowing that this is where our passion lies, and this is what we want to be doing, and this is where we want to raise our kids, and these are the people we want to spend our time with, and the locals and the tourists, and this is what we're here to do. I think that yeah, we've got a little bit of a new lease for the whole thing, and we're really excited again, now that we've had time to digest and cry and do all the things that everyone did for the last year and a half. I'm not very good with the unknown. Like, it's not my forte. So this has been really stressful because I like to plan. Yeah.
Do you think, you've mentioned your kids, do you see a passion in cooking? Like, do you think that they'll kind of integrate themselves into the kitchen atmosphere as well? Or do you see them maybe doing something completely different?
Um, yeah, it's hard to know. I think that it's funny because I asked my oldest daughter, so do you think you'll take over the restaurant one day? And she was like, oh, no, 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 like that is way too much work. Like, forget it. you know. And so I think that, part of it is kind of, that's they've seen what we go through, and they see that our summers are not spent, riding bikes and swimming and stuff. So I think that I don't know if I can see right now any of them wanting to take over the restaurant, but they definitely have a passion and a knack for food, for sure. And I think it's just, again, because it's so much part of their lives, and they see the lambs being born, and then they see them being butchered, and then they see all the steps in there in the gardens. And I think that they may never be chefs owning restaurants, but I think that they'll have a knowledge and an appreciation for where their food comes from, which to me is the most important.
It's interesting what you pick up because I'm even kind of reflecting on my old childhood. And, I remember my dad was a bakery manager at a grocery store for a long time. And yeah, there were definitely points in when I was like 12, 13 and whatnot, where I was like, I really don't want to be doing this.
No, no. Yeah, well, that's it. And I remember thinking about dad too, growing up and having his own business, thinking like, oh my God, like being an entrepreneur is so not for me. Like this is like talking about in the evening and having like, to pay bills and balance books and like, yeah, no, they audited and yeah, no, thank you. So you never know. Maybe they feel deterred right now, but they may head there.
For sure. I'm one thing that I loved is, how you're talking about, knowing like this appreciation for food and wine and like different drinks and stuff like that. I say wine because my head immediately goes to just some of the experiences that I've worked with when I was in different restaurants up in Ottawa. And it was always, fascinating to me to really see how you can, amplify a meal and an experience with like a story or even just kind of knowing the difference in just like some pairings with like drinks and foods and stuff. And I'm still no expert. I mean, the first day of training, I took one thing and I just ran with it my whole 2 years that I was working there. I had a story about a bottle of wine that I would always recommend. They told me it was jammy and it was like a rhubarb thing. So I told this story about how it just reminded me of home in Newfoundland and, my grandfather going out and doing berry picking and then coming back home and Nan making jam or whatever it may be. And that story was about 5 minutes long. And it, for the most part, had like a 99% success rate in terms of a recommendation. And they went with it. The other 1%, I was like, let me go get your waiter for this evening and you'll be able to recommend something else. But
Yeah.
it's such a important skill that I've noticed. How does it feel that like it's because for me, it's so hard to grasp like all of that, but obviously, it came pretty natural to you.
Yeah, and I think that's when I say how important it is to be in love with the industry and to have a passion for what you do. And I think it's like that for any industry, but I think that that's what it comes back to. You can hear it in your voice. Like, were you really in that rhubarb patch with your grandfather? Like, you were like, because that's what comes to your mind. And everyone always can connect over food, no matter what, whether it's what you've grown or what you've grown up with or whatever, you will connect over food and drink. It's inevitable. So I think that yeah, I think that it's always a great conversation because everyone drinks and everyone eats something, so it's important. And I always find it so easy to chat with people because it's all honest and it's exactly how I feel. And it is exactly what is important to me. So it comes naturally because of that, I think. And then that's taken time. That's taken years to develop the appreciation, and lots of hours in the garden weeding to really appreciate, where the food comes from. And I think you're right. I think people are looking for a little piece of the cove and a little piece of us, and you want to give them that because you hope that it's something that they take as a positive in their life and remember maybe down the road, not just to get you another customer when they tell their neighbor, but to know that's a fond memory that they have. I think that's and you've made them smile at least is pretty important to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. That rhubarb story was always a little bit of stretch of the truth, just so I could kind of. I was just a
We
host
got a
and a
few of them
bar.
too.
Yeah, I was a host and a bar back, right? I was just kind of running food to the tables and stuff, and it's tough because you get that initial training on like the first day, and you have a grasp of it, and then if you like even, I mean, I'd only work like weekends and stuff, so it'd be like 5 days of just like not even thinking about it, and then you're immersed back into it, so you really just kind of stuck with the one thing that really
Yeah.
worked when you got in that situation. And I mean, I do stand by that bottle of wine. It's a Seven Peaks. It's a red wine from like California. I love it.
Nice.
I think it's one of the best bottles I've ever tasted. Now, mind you, that's from a 23-year-old university student who probably hasn't tasted many bottles of wine in his life, but I do think it's a great one. Going back to experiences though, and not only the food at your restaurant, but the drinks obviously play a big part, the people and location. I mean, I can think of so many summers just sitting down on that front patio that you guys got, and then all of a sudden we either get a glimpse of a beautiful iceberg or a whale. Was the location a strategic choice, an opportunistic choice, or now the fact that like you kind of get those whales popping up, maybe just an added benefit of the opportunity?
Yeah, I think it's I think I didn't think when we opened, I guess I didn't think that much about wow, this is a perfect location. Like I just thought I grew up with this. Like yes, there's wow, an ocean, wow, a whale, wow, an iceberg, like cool, you know. Yeah, I'm still the first one out there when there's the whale, like, oh my God, it's a whale, you know, all the time now. But no, I didn't I guess I didn't really think much about that other than why wouldn't you want to eat looking at this? Like it could be
Mhm.
worse, you know. Like I think that that was kind of my thought. And then I remember even in the first few years, people being like so blown away and being like, really? Like really? Like this is I know this is pretty. Like of course it's pretty, but being really amazed by how special people thought that it was, and what a little like piece of heaven that they were going to kind of take a mental picture of it and kind of take with them. And I think that I guess I didn't realize maybe quite what a little hidden gem it would be to people. Always a very special place in my heart, and one that I said I would never return home to. But I think that maybe I did take it for granted for sure. And now I'm definitely realizing, and especially after traveling a bit, just kind of realizing, how special it is to have a little corner of the earth that's that quiet and that, you know, that pretty. And yeah, I probably took that for granted prior to opening for sure. Yeah.
One of the things that's pretty unique too is as you're walking up the dirt road, the gravel road there, like you had like right next to you is, essentially the garden where a lot of the ingredients that are being grown are going to be on your plate in a couple of minutes. Was that something, again, going back, was it more like strategic, or it just kind of happened where it was like, yeah, like let's kind of show them the whole process and they can really see it? Or was it just like, oh no, this is more or less the best spot to kind of put this with our location?
Yeah, it kind of was all about logistics of where it made sense to make use of the space and the soil. And then when we realized, wow, everyone doesn't know that we're growing our own food. I just took that for granted. Like, well, of course we're growing our own food. Why wouldn't you grow your own food? You live in a Rammer's Cove. You have land, like, and you're serving a restaurant, and groceries are expensive and hard to get. Why wouldn't you be growing as much as you can? Not that growing vegetables is cheaper than buying them. I learned that too. But it's then it kind of became wow, like people can actually see what we're growing, and that's what they're eating. And I think I definitely took that for granted as well, that people would have assumed that that's what they were eating was potatoes that we grew. Why would we be buying potatoes and things like that? So it kind of became more of yeah, let's make sure that this is what we're harvesting, and this is what's going on their plates, and this is what they're walking past and seeing, because that's kind of what it's going to take, to get the point across that this is the food that you're eating is the food that you just strolled past there. So the gardens have become more and more a part of it all as we kind of fine tune our product and our menus too. But yeah, I think it all laid out well. And my dad and my husband both have they have an eye for that, and they get, colors and places to put things and aesthetics. And I just kind of stick to the kitchen and let them kind of play with all that. But it just kind of, it all kind of fell into place. And every year we just kind of took it one step further and kind of ended up now where we are. So yeah.
What's Chef Katie's go-to pizza if you're making one yourself?
Tomato sauce and pesto. I'm a tomato pesto mix.
Is that
Um,
what that's allowed? That's a thing?
that's a thing. Yeah, that's a thing. That's why they don't let me serve. Like, this is the ultimate pizza, and I spiel it out, and then I come back, and they're like, "Great, Kate was serving, and now we got to make one of these." And I'm like, "I know, but it's the best." But yeah, like little dollops of pesto on the tomato. And then our own bacon is a go-to. Caramelized onions is a must. Um, I would say feta, that little bit of like cold salt kind of that adds to the pizza for sure. And then something fresh and green on top, like an arugula or spinach or something that goes on after the pizza's cooked. I like a cold lettuce with my pizza. Yeah, I'd say I keep it pretty basic. I don't go too wild. I think less is more. Yeah.
You mentioned feta, and immediately just because I've been on TikTok for a quick minute, the feta pasta was like a trend that took off immensely, and obviously we kind of talked about the bread baking became a trend, and this was a trend where you're actually seeing like grocery stores be sold out of this type of cheese for probably the first time in a long time. When you see stuff take off like that, are you maybe like thinking in terms of like a work mindset of like, hey, like how could we maybe replicate this for like a something in our restaurant?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I've only just gone onto the TikTok, so I'm like, wow, yeah, there's some cool things on there. But yeah, I'm always thinking like that. But then I also always kind of think, you know what? Like when I did one of my Zoom classes was a pasta, so we did a ravioli, and I was like, do you want to show everyone how to make ravioli? Next week it's pizza. Do you really want to show everyone how to make pizza? And then I think like, of course you do, because they're gonna realize how much work goes into it. So
Mhm.
once you've made it yourself and then you're like, and that's what a lot of people said, it's like, I'll never make fresh pasta again, but I'll pay double when I come to your place because I realize now what goes into making fresh pasta. So I think that, yeah, I'm always trying to think of things, and my staff are so good for that because they're like young and hip, and know all about the trends when I'm lagging behind on Instagram. So they're really good at keep me up to date. But yeah, I'm always kind of thinking, oh, that would be a great dish to be able to execute, or oh, we could grow that. That's my new one. Yeah, we could grow that.
Making fresh pasta, I'm almost putting myself to the test here. You get like the flour, you make a little bowl out of the flour, you put a couple egg yolks in, and then you beat that into it, and it kind of basically makes a base, and then you cut it or string it in the way that you want it to be in for
Yeah,
pasta. Okay, all right.
you got it. You can make it.
I'm gonna attempt, like I'm just taking mental notes honestly on things that I'm gonna attempt in my kitchen at some point later on this weekend, right? I'm gonna
Nice.
definitely put myself to the test. And I think for myself even too, like I always grew up as a picky eater. So even like, in terms of like my pizza, if I was to tell you like my personal favorite, I'd probably say, oh yeah, like pesto, pepperoni. And then I'd probably, say basil and roasted peppers because I can eat that and like it.
Hmm.
And I'm saying that to avoid judgment. I'd probably still maybe go like, yeah, like cheese, pepperoni, and I'm good. Like that's
Yeah, I love a pepperoni and cheese pizza. I think that's fantastic. And I was a really picky eater growing up too, and maybe that's what's made me appreciate, flavors and stuff more as I got more used to them. But yeah, I was like no seafood, no, like I didn't like much as a child. There's nothing wrong with a pepperoni pizza.
I feel like just because you're Chef Katie who makes pizzas all the time, like I feel like I have to ask you this question, even though I've always like put whatever you want on your pizza and leave it at that. But like the whole pineapples on pizza debate, where do you stand there? Because I feel like some people want me to ask you that.
That's a tough one. I hate pineapple. I can say I don't like pineapple. I don't like fresh. I don't like canned. I don't like rings. I don't like pineapple candy. I don't like pineapple crush. And I don't know what it is because I'm not a picky eater now. I will eat anything. I will try anything. I enjoy so many things I never thought I'd enjoy, but I hate pineapple, and my whole family laughs at me because it's such a like I love all fruit. I don't know what it is with pineapple that so then if it's like, well, we'll just put the pineapple on it and then you can pick it off, and I'm like, no, the whole pizza tastes like pineapple. The juice is seeped under the cheese. It's yellow. It's the wrong color. It's everything about pineapple on pizza to me is not okay. And that's 100% a personal thing. And so when they're, my staff are like, let's do a Hawaiian pizza. And I'm like, really? And they're like, no, like we're gonna do Hawaiian pizza. And I'm like, well, we can't grow pineapple. And well, I also can't grow lemons and we sell lemonade. So, get over it, Kate. And I do get over it. And everyone orders it and everyone loves it and everyone wants more pineapple. We do roast it. I'm actually in my pizza class I'm doing tomorrow I'm doing a roasted pineapple on the pizza. So I am sucking it up and being okay with the fact that other people like pineapple on their pizza. But to me, just the whole pizza tastes like pineapple. Even if I like pineapple, I don't know.
I'm with you 100%. I like pineapple as like the fruit. I will point out though that you mentioned like pineapple crush. You do not like it. I'm in the same boat. A lot of Newfoundlanders are not going to be happy with that, but I'll take the stronger. I'll take the stronger stance. I don't get the hype with pineapple crush. I don't know why we brag about it so much. I just don't think it's that good. I think we have better things to offer.
Yeah, no, totally. I hear you. It's I can't be okay with it, but I can be okay with cooking it for other people. I'm past that, and there's lots of things I cook that I don't love, but or love the combinations of, but appreciate that other people do. So I attempting to be more open minded, but no, eating it myself, no, can't do it.
When you're coming up with other sections on the menu item, obviously like the moose burgers have been super popular there as well. I'm gonna be honest, I don't necessarily strive from the pizza. I love it. That's kind of my go-to every time. But I have tried like some of the other things when I'm there in terms of like the beverages, like the sparkling rhubarb lemonade is absolutely fantastic, especially with like the seaweed gin. I think it's great when you are implementing those other things. And I know like you have a dessert with like partridge berries and stuff. Are you still trying to hold true to maybe like a Newfoundland theme? Because I feel like partridge berries is kind of big around here. Because I haven't heard many of my friends from like Toronto or Ottawa really talk about stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we always try to use whatever we can that we can get locally. So blueberries, partridge berries, chanterelles, whatever people, either come to us and they're selling or we're able to get our hands on, we will use. We have friends who are fishermen. So if they're fishing mackerel or if they're doing, we're trying lobster season, whatever we can do locally, we will. And then again, being a big tourist draw, anything local, anything like you say, like a partridge berry that's not, um, common elsewhere is always a great thing to do. And showcasing, I love to showcase anything that can be grown in Newfoundland because I think there's so many things that we can grow well here. And so, yeah, we do try to use anything that we can that's been grown here in Newfoundland. Yeah.
We touched on it a little bit, but it doesn't seem like you slow down even in the sense of integrating the online classes. I think it's correct me on the name. It like Cooking with Chef Katie. Is that the online class that you've been doing?
Yeah, it kind of turned into Cooking with Katie. Yeah, that's kind of what the name it grew to become. Yeah.
So take me through, like, why was that something that you kind of wanted to integrate? And, like you said, it's such a busy schedule, but yet you're still looking for, new opportunities to teach people and show and share that love of food.
Yeah, I think it was kind of like part of it's kind of like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to keep our name out there? Are we going to open? Are we going to do caterings? Are we going to have private? Are we going to do reservations? Are we going to, like, all the things? Oh my goodness. Like, how do we stay connected with our clientele? How, what do we do? And so I think when we shut down last February, when everything closed, March, whenever that was, 17 years ago, it was rough. It was hard. I felt that I wasn't sharing food with anyone, and I was working from home, and like everyone else, I am a social person. I mean, running a restaurant, I love to chat, and I love to cook with people. And I think that cooking alone is it's not as nice, it's not as fun. It's all about sharing ideas and sharing the passion for the food that you're cooking and chatting about ingredients. And so I think that that was a long shutdown, and it was kind of, and it was very depressing. And it was just like this time around, I was like, you know what, this is okay. Like, this is okay. Cause how do we connect? How do we how do I get excited about food again? You know, I miss everyone. I miss seeing people, and then living in Upper Amherst Cove on top of it and not getting out is tough. So this was, you know what, let's just try it out and see what happens. And I just wanted to, I wanted to keep being the Bonavista Social Club. So how can I be the Bonavista Social Club when I, you know, I'm not having people in the door right now, being winter anyway. But I mean, it's been a long time. We didn't have anyone in last year. We were closed completely. So um, yeah, I kind of just said, you know what, let's just try it out and see how it goes. And so the Wednesday nights have turned. This is, I think, where we've done three, four. Um, so yeah, and now I'm going back to work on campus next week. But we're going to keep rolling with them because I mean, it's, you know, people are showing up, and it's right now we're able to pay a few bills. So as long as if this is something that can kind of keep us afloat until we can figure out what we're at, you know, the loan repayments, graces are gone, and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of a bit of everything. It was a bit of, you know, we need an income because that's kind of important to try to reopen again this season. And it's just so fun to be connecting with people again, and you know, and seeing people other parts of the world, and remembering when you met them, and then showing you the pictures of food that you created together. And I said, you know, if nothing else, and this makes me happy and me smile, and I need to be busy, I need to be moving, I need to be doing things. And you know, sitting still in the cove daily, you know, in my little attic office up here is depressing. So it was a way for me personally to be able to connect with people again.
Now, as a creative, a lot of people struggle with, doing lessons like that, right? And I know you just kind of touched on maybe why you got into it, but how did you become okay with the fact that, like, you're potentially teaching people? Because I struggle with the fact it's like, oh, if I show you how to do a photo or a video, then you're just not going to hire me when it comes down the road, because then you just know how to do it. I assume that there's probably that still similar debate. Obviously, there's a big difference. If you teach me step by step how to make a pizza, there's no way I'm going to be able to replicate it like you can. The years of experience and personal touches that you're able to do, I'm never going to be able to replicate. But I find a lot of creatives still have that thought.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I first put it out there, a few people were like, "Oh, like you're going to share your recipes?" You know, or oh, like, you know, and even when I have people come work for me, you know, we have turnover. We have people that come back every year, but we have people we're training and then they go on somewhere else. And that never even came to mind. Like I never even thought about, oh my God, now they can make it themselves, you know, and I put lots of recipes in different cookbooks and stuff. And that never, I was always about sharing ideas and growing on other people's ideas and sharing recipes. And I have all these little books of, you know, all these chefs who've given me these recipes over the years. And I never ever really thought of it like that until, you know, it was pointed out to me that, wow, like, you know, you're giving out these replays and you're, you know, and then I thought, oh, I never really thought of it. But I think that you know, and I kind of feel a little bit too like it's like acting. Like it's like you're doing this show with me because you want a little piece of the Bonavista Social Club, and you know, and you want to connect with other people who, you know, you visited here together, or you know, and all those things. And I think I always feel like, I think I feel especially now that there's not as much to be excited about. And when you can create a dish that's tasty, it's fun. It's great. Even if you don't even like cooking, you know, and you just, you know, you slug it out, and in the end you have this creation that's yours, that you made, that you know, this tangible, you know. I think that's a really great thing. And seeing everyone coming in the kitchen with their kids and being a family and connecting on that level and stuff, it was, you know, that was a huge part of it for me, was knowing that even for this hour and a half, that this all you're thinking about, like just forget about all the other stuff and let's have some fun and create some dishes together, you know, and taking people's feedback and trying to create the next class based upon what they want to learn and what they want to cook. And yeah, I think that, and then it's stirring up all their emotions and all their memories and all their, you know, I think that right now, if we can bring a bit of normalcy, and we can bring a few smiles and stuff, and we can share some ideas and not be too uptight, it's even more important than it's ever been.
Mhm. Yeah, I completely agree. I think almost sometimes it's as simple as just putting the ego aside for the betterment of the group, right?
Yeah. And can you put that much love in it? Like, I think that, like you gotta, is your heart in that? Because it's not going to taste the way that someone else is going to make it. And I think it's when people come here, they're coming. Probably that pasta does taste better when you're watching the whales and sipping, a seaweed gin rhubarb lemonade, and seeing people come in from all over the world and meeting new people and hearing, the server's story about the nan who grew the rhubarb, like, and all those things. I think that it's all such a part of it. So it's one thing to hold a recipe, but it's another thing to create an experience where it's going to make it taste even better.
No, 100%. You're always selling an experience, right? And that's something that I try to hold through in the sense where it's like, if you say hire me for an event and we're doing like I'm doing a photo shoot for you, it's like, I know I'm not going to be the best, but there is going to be a different vibe when I'm there, right? I'm going to, be smiling. You're going to get Robert, right? And things like that, which is what I try and hold true every single time that I get to, do what I love, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's I kind of feel, oh well, why are people signing up for this? Or, or wow, like, hey, you just, made $1,000, or, and it's been 10 years. It's been 10 years of becoming the Bonavista Social Club and who we are, and meeting these people, and putting our blood, sweat, and tears into, sinking in debts and all the things that come with it, to get to a point where you are who you are and you do what you do, and people respect you for that and want a part of it, and those who don't, that's okay. And yeah, I think you're right. You're paying for a piece of the whole package. It's not just your pizza crust or your topping or something. But yeah. Yeah.
When you're going through, the motions and the years and the fact that, you can now look at it and, you've been recognized nationally for the work that you've been able to do you sit back and enjoy that like you should be?
No, I think I still like battle all the time with like having the confidence that you can do this, Kate, like the confidence that it's gonna be okay, and people are going to support you, and I think that yeah, I think I just always have too much doubt. That's one of my not so great attributes. But I can't. But no, I think that I'm so happy that we are able to live where we live and raise our kids here and be near my parents, and be in rural Newfoundland in a time like this in general. I'm just so grateful for that and all the other things that come with it. I don't deal well with conflict, and I don't do well with not pleasing people. Like TripAdvisor is not my friend. So I think that, I do need to just let things go. And I just need to know that, we're doing the best job that we can do every day. And I'm getting better. I'm getting a little bit better at relaxing, a little bit.
What you mentioned TripAdvisor is not your friend, and that's something that I struggle with in terms of trying to please everybody, but it's inevitable. It's not going to happen, and I know you said you try and take a step back, but what do you think has helped you maybe bridge that gap?
I think that knowing that I'm going to like die young if I don't chill out is kind of getting me there. It's kind of like, you know what, life's too short and it's so unknown. So just take a deep breath and chill out, because you can't please everyone. And, it's like I have to like tell myself that often enough, that it's okay to not please everyone. Like that's okay, because life's going to go on, and there's only so many things you can control. And again, like I said, letting go of control is not easy for me. So something like a global pandemic is like even more stressful. But I think that, yeah, I think that just looking around me at what's really important in life, and what my priorities actually are, and how do I strive to keep them my priorities. And I think that that's definitely helped me, yeah, help me put things in perspective. And I think that stepping away from it was important. I think that was, yeah, that was a really good thing for everyone.
Mm-hmm. An interesting, business decision for you guys. Like you don't accept reservations, and I think I kind of understand why, just with like I guess the limited capacity. But could you take me through like that decision and why it was important for you to maybe go against the tide in terms of maybe some restaurant standards? Because it seems everywhere you go, like it's almost you need a reservation if you want to get in.
Yeah, no, for sure. And kind of we're probably headed back towards reservations now as things are, a little bit more spaced out in the tourist, section, and not being really sure about how many staff to have on ever, because it's going to be a
Mm,
different kind of influx for the next couple of years. But yeah, we did do reservations when we first opened. We did reservations only for the first few years, 2 years at least, maybe
okay.
more. And we had a lot, well, we always get a lot of people that don't realize where we are, even, after you've said this is where we are. So they don't show up on time, or they've got lost, or they didn't realize that it was, 20 minutes from Bonavista, or, so all of a sudden you're holding on to these tables and these people aren't coming, or they're showing up 40 minutes late and they've spent so much time looking for you that, that you need to feed them. So you can't really give away their table. And because we have such limited seating now, we have a bit more now, that we've enclosed our deck and stuff. But yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare. And then you had people driving, we just drove down from Clairville. We didn't know we needed a reservation. And oh, sorry, this person's coming for their table in 20 minutes and they might not be there for an hour, but we can't feed you tonight. That was kind of, hard. And we weren't able to turn people over, like we weren't able to move the tables, because, and then you kind of couldn't control, because people come and they want to watch the sunset and they want to watch the whales and they want to sit there and sip their coffee indefinitely, and you can't say to people like, you got to go now, your table is, and so we wanted to avoid that as well, and that kind of became a bit much. And then trying to move tables around and balance all the reservations were, it was just getting, a bit out of control. Now I know since then there's even, amazing systems to book reservations, and that's not a great excuse because the technology is there, to make reservations clean. But I think that was a big part of it, having to turn, locals away, frequently because, yeah, sorry, we're reservation only. Well, I just wanted to get so it kind of, it just wasn't making sense. So then one year we just decided, let's just go completely no reservations and open full, like 8, 9 hours every day, well, 6 days a week. So yeah, we kind of figured that, and that did work better. It did work a lot better. People then, without the other thing was with reservations is we kind of got this mentality that it was a bit stuffy. Like it was kind of like, oh, well, you need a reservation to get in this place, and that is not as much now. But 10 years ago, 9 years ago, it was different in this area, and saying you can't go somewhere without a reservation. You can't, your standard was here all of a sudden. And then it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't have real stem wine glasses? Like I have a reservation. So it was it was also like kind of that in that time was a bit of the stigma of less rustic, more kind of uppity, and growing a name quickly. That was one of the downfalls, was the expectations were massive. And so, and the reservations kind of up that again. And then it was people adding more people, and anyway, so we kind of went back to the idea that we're a social club. We are a social, relaxed building, and it is what it is, and the music is loud, and there's kids running around, and you might have two people sitting at a table for four, and two other people come in. And if those two people at the table for four had had a reservation, and the expectation had kind of been here, and they were sitting there and they wanted, this was their table, and stuff, it's very different. Whereas it's kind of like, oh, we're just sat here. You can join on if you want. You're just a two, no problem. Or it was just a kind of a bit more relaxed. And yeah, and so it definitely worked better. It didn't work better on our end for not knowing what's going to hit you, on a Friday night, everything or nothing, especially in a bit more of the off season. But that's kind of where we went with that. Yeah, instead of going stem wine glasses, we went no reservations.
Well, it seems like every decision always kind of goes back to the foundation of the culture of what you're trying to achieve there. And I guess, being almost, over 10 years into the Bonavista Vista Social Club, how important is it to you now, even when a new decision comes up, that you really do hold true to those initial cultures and vibes that you really set out to be a president?
Yeah, we always go back there. It's always going back to what is real and what is important and who we are and why we're there. And especially now, like we're thinking about that more and more, like our locals are, that's who we're here for. Like we want to be able to give them a service. And tourists is great. But how do you keep everyone happy? How do you keep it real? How do you, stay true to your roots? How do you, it's so hard all the time. And how do you still make money? Like it comes down to that there's bills to pay, and kids aren't free, and and that's it. We need a septic system. We need to dig a well. We need to all the things that need to happen. It has to be a smart business decision in the end, and we've learned that the hard way too. So yeah, it's always, as we get older as well, it just becomes more and more about what's really important, and your morals and your values. And yeah, and we've talked a lot about that the last year, kind of what makes sense, but also where we see ourselves and what we see ourselves doing for the unforeseen future.
Partridge berry ketchup, is that like just adding partridge berry to ketchup? I've always been curious.
Well, it's a homemade ketchup, so it's like a onion, garlic, balsamic, brown sugar, tin tomato kind of deal with partridge berries. So you're making homemade ketchup and you're substituting some of the tomatoes for partridge berries. That's what
Now,
that is. So then, yeah.
okay, so with something like that, for example, like I just feel like, kind of going back to like the picky eater and stuff, like if somebody wants a burger and they just want ketchup, but now all of a sudden, like partridge berry ketchup, and like, are you worried when you make decisions like that you might deter more people than you'll attract?
No, because we always kind of are like, we have the Heinz in the fridge. Like, you want normal ketchup, not a problem, because I love Heinz ketchup on my burger.
Mhm.
It's gonna be just as delicious. It's mousse. It's a buttermilk bun. Like, it's gonna be great. And so we've always kind of kept that as well. It's like, well, I don't serve sugar twin because you shouldn't eat sugar twin. Like, no, if you want to eat sugar twin, here's sugar twin. It's it's we want to always stay relaxed and let people have their options, and I'm mine's ketchup all the way. Yeah.
Okay, so you're that's interesting because I've heard some and watched a few videos where it's like people who run like LA burger shops and stuff like that. Apparently, there's a burger shop in LA, more or less. If you ask for ketchup, they'll kick you out. Like they don't think that ketchup should be on their burger. So I guess you're on the opposite end of that
Hilarious.
spectrum.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, if you you want a piece of jam toast, no problem. I got jam, I got toast. Yeah, no sweat. No, I'm all about to an extent the customer is always right. The customer gets what the customer wants to eat, and I think that it's great to try all those things, and but I think that no, we always have the store bought condiments in the back. Or if you want on your fish, if you want to eat ketchup on your fish, no problem. Go ahead. You can eat
Yeah.
ketchup on your fish.
What do you think is next for the Bonavista Social Club? What are you looking forward to?
Um, I guess I don't love the word like the new normal or the normalcy. I think that that life is life, and there's always gonna be obstacles, and there's always gonna be curveballs, and there's the industry in general is always again, like all industries, it's always headed a different direction, and just being able to bend with it and go with it and be okay with the fact that you need to kind of revisit things and reinvent the wheel in a sense. I think that we're just looking forward to being able to cook for people, however that may be. So private gatherings here or at people's houses. I guess we're kind of trying to get a comfort level on other people's comfort level in their sense of what works for them. So we've had a lot of people approach us about some different ideas, packed lunches, dinners dropped off at Airbnbs. There's so many options. I think that there's still such a massive unknown. So when we're asked now, we have no idea. But we're ready to go whatever direction that we need to go and can go come, I'd say by June for sure. I'm working at the college till the end of June. So, but I would say, and even, it could be weekends before then. It could be anything. We have so many ideas, and we've gone ahead and booked as many caterings as we can for the season. And if they happen, they happen. And if they don't, they don't. And that's another thing I'm working on. Just being okay with the fact that they may or they may not. And not trying to promise too much to staff just because we have no idea what we're promising yet. Trying not to kind of pigeonhole any direction and being open. So if people want private Zoom classes, if people want, to be taught or to learn, if they want group classes, if they want to get married here, if they want whatever people want, we're ready to go there. And it may not it won't look like it did, obviously, 10 years ago or 2 years ago. But I think there's so many ways to feed people that we just got to keep getting creative. And I think that doing the Zoom classes has just got, the creative juices flowing again, and the excitement is there again. So I think time is flying by, and we need to make some decisions. But I'm trying not to panic about making them too quickly, just because flexibility is okay. It's all right to have a few things in mind.
With all this Newfoundland food talk, will we see a Bologna burger or a Bologna pizza at the Bonavista Vista Social Club?
I'm trying to think. We did Bologna before. We did the Chinch Bologna. We did some sort of pizza. We did some sort of like breakfast pizza, and we had Bologna, okay, and we had an egg. Yeah, that's what it was. And it was really good. Bologna in general is great, but the Chinch Bologna is so good. Yeah. We'll feature that one again right after the Hawaiian.
I was just making a joke. I thought that'd be fun. I didn't realize there was actually some seriousness to the background of the Bologna pizza.
Yeah. No, it's nothing like a good slice of Bologna. Yeah,
for sure. Chef Kate, I want to thank you for your time and hopping on. I've had so many great memories at your restaurant, so it was nice to finally meet you. I always, like to hand it over to the guests if you have anything that you kind of want to just, say and end it off on, by all means.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. Thanks for having me on your podcast. It's a really great podcast, and I appreciate chatting. I think we just all need to, take a deep breath and give everyone a little more, a little more, feel a little more relaxed to everyone, to each other. And I think that however we can support local entrepreneurs right now is crucial. And I think that, Newfoundland is such an amazing place to be right now. So let's all make the most of everything we have here around us.
100%. Kate, thank you once again so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.